This weekend, and our Guardians chat today is brought to us by the Living for We podcast. What happens when a regular day at school turns into the worst day of your life? Unfortunately, that's a reality that's happening way too frequently in today's world. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in America, and in communities of color, the impact is even greater. Living for We, Keep Your Head Up is an award-winning podcast that focuses on real stories, real struggles, and real solutions in Northeast Ohio. New episodes drop every other Tuesday. Next week, you get a new episode where you'll hear from host Marlene Harris-Taylor and her new co-host, Maisha Watkins, the executive director of the Cleveland Peacemakers. No one does a better job of bringing you the stories from the front lines, the victims, the survivors, and those fighting for change. Each episode, they sit down with a different organization that's working to end gun violence and provide resources for those affected by gun violence. Whatever kind of help you need, there's a person for you to contact. Listen to Living for We wherever you get your podcasts, or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. Learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/Living for We. Subscribe today to Living for We on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bull, Jay, The Guardians take 2 of 3 from Kansas City. Manzardo was a hero. Jose got hurt. Bobby looked good in his first start, even though it was not his first scheduled start. Wherever you want to start, the floor is yours. Let's talk some guards.
Yeah, I thought Manzardo was the story of the weekend. The offense did a great job. You know, they scored over 6 runs a game, playing in a pitcher's ballpark against 3 good pitchers. There's the stash. Zach and I had an Ultimate Guardian show this morning. If you missed it, go check it out. Obviously, we spent, I think we did 40 minutes on the Guardians this morning. We were talking about how Kyle Manzardo kind of has a vibe and a look of an old school player. I mean, in fact, Zach pointed this out, and it so clicked into me once he said it, that his swing is a little like Don Mattingly's.
Dude, I think about
finish.
that too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that much about baseball, but I definitely think he
The finish is totally like
The
Mattingly.
finish is the pose at the end with the full rotation.
He's got the mustache. Old Mattingly's was a little bushier.
We compared him Friday to Wade Boggs, too.
Another one.
Yeah, I mean,
little bit.
Those are some Boggs a Hall of Famer. Mattingly would have been a Hall of Famer had he not gotten hurt.
Absolutely.
And
neither of them were great athletes.
No, but they
were great hitters.
Well, Mattingly was a great fielder, too. He was excellent.
Defensively, very good. Boggs, I think, was probably an average fielder. He wasn't extraordinary.
Right,
but neither one could run particularly well.
No.
But there is a mix of Boggs and Mattingly in Manzardo.
He's got a sweet swing, and I mean, listen, it's 3 games. You can't get carried away.
No.
But the fact that I said coming into the season, I want him playing every day. I don't want him sitting against lefties.
I'm with you.
Well, he's played against 2 lefties. I think he's 4 for 6 with 4 extra base hits. So he's playing.
had a cycle on the opening day against lefties.
Yeah, he missed the single.
He missed the easy part.
Yeah. So I mean, it was an amazing weekend. After they blew that first game, he comes through in extra innings. For him to have 2 homers and 6 ribbies already. I mean,
and he's not using a torpedo bat. So.
No, the torpedo bat, the story of the weekend. I will say, I know Santana's good defensively. I want to see Manzardo play some first base. I don't want him DHing every game as a young player. And I know by next year he'll be their everyday first baseman. But right now, I'm not taking him out of the lineup, period.
No, I'm not either. I'm letting him bat against lefties until he dips below 250 against lefties. Like he seems to be fine. That pose right there was a Mattingly pose.
Exactly.
Yes. That is Don Mattingly.
Zach told me he spoke to Kyle Manzardo about lefties because last year they really didn't let him face lefties.
Right.
And he said, I've been good against lefties my whole life as a kid, in high school, in college.
Some guys are fine with it.
Yeah, he said, I get it. I get why some people find it a struggle. I haven't. And, I mean, listen, the Guardians don't have enough consistently good hitters that I'm going to take this guy who's off to a great start with a lot of talent
because
out of the lineup.
The question, Bull, is this. Is whoever we're going to put in his spot against the lefty today a better hitter than Kyle Manzardo? No. I don't know who that would be.
And it's not like Kyle Manzardo's coming out of nowhere. He's been a highly regarded prospect when he was in Tampa. The Guardians traded for him.
By the way, did you see Savali got tagged again?
Crushed. He may be hurt.
Yeah, I know. I think something's going on.
Yeah. So, so he, I mean, it was great. That was the biggest takeaway of the weekend.
I'll go in different areas because I don't want to repeat what you said, although I agree with all of it. I think Manzardo was my headline. But I had some other headlines, and I don't know why, but I'm focusing more on the negative.
Class A?
I'm gonna clump the bullpen in there. Like, we've talked over and over again, and the hardest thing to do in baseball is to repeat a great year from your bullpen.
Yes.
It is not so easy to just, we're going to throw those guys out there again, and they're going to be lights out. I hope this isn't a trend, but I'm developing a bit of a theory. I talked to a lot of guys in the offseason about usage, and how baseball, I think, more than any other sport, you are a creature of habit. Mm-hmm. You know when it's the 9th inning, you're coming in if you're Class A. You know if it's the 8th inning, and you know the situation. Not every time in the 9th, it's got to be the right situation. But you get drilled into this ritualistic life. I think baseball players are more superstitious than any athlete. I've been friends with and played just about all the sports. Mm-hmm. I've never played a sport where I've been surrounded more by superstitious guys. Yeah. I bring that up because I was disappointed in that. I thought Gavin Williams was lifted too early, and I thought yesterday Bybee was absolutely lifted too early. Now, before people jump on me and say, Jay, you know better. It's the beginning of the season. These guys had low pitch counts.
Yeah,
they had low pitch counts.
The only thing I'll say about Bybee is that he's coming on. He had food poisoning.
Understandable, but he retired 13 in a row.
No, I hear you.
And walked the guy, and he's out of the game. And I literally said at the time, and I think it was only 3-0. It wasn't 6-0. And I said at the time, oh God, I don't love that. Not the way our bullpen's going. Like, get as many hitters out of this guy as you can. And the reason I say I'm beginning to be worried that this is part of a larger picture. Last year, we weren't going to win the World Series, but I thought the way the season ended, it didn't have to end that way. And I know you and I disagree on this. I know when Jason's in, he disagrees on this. I'm not sure where you are on this.
Okay.
Starting pitchers are of the mindset that you go 5 innings. Anything less than 5 innings, it's a bad start.
Yeah.
It's a bad start. And Jason, I think you kept saying, hey man, if you get 3 1/3 out and they get in a jam, get them out. No, that's not how you do it. You don't do it that way all year. And what happened was our bullpen pitched far more innings in the playoffs than our starters gave us. Mm-hmm. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not the way the math is supposed to go.
Yeah.
And what happened, and I'm not saying this is exactly why it happened, but why was it that Class A was a shell of himself in the Yankee series? And in Detroit as well. I think it's because we got out of his rhythm. We got out of his routine. We used him more than we had been using him. And the human body is an amazing thing. In the old days, and by old days I just mean 70s, starters went 140 pitches because they were used to it. They stretched out to that distance, and that's what they did. And in my mind, far less injuries. And a lot more careers that went 20 years. Where's the pitchers today that are going 20 years? Well, it's almost like we've devolved. We're supposed to evolve and get better. Mm-hmm. I think with specialization, we've devolved to the point where now a 5-inning start by the starting pitcher is like, okay, good job, give me the ball.
I hear what you're saying, Jay. In the playoffs last year, though, you
managed to win the moment.
They had a lot of starters they couldn't rely on last year. Gavin Williams was having a bad season.
I would argue some got lifted when they were doing just fine.
Yeah, that's kind of a trend in the game. I
don't like it.
I don't like it either, but it is what it is. I'm not saying I think they want their starters to go a little longer in the regular season. I think they'll build up to that. I was surprised he didn't let Bybee try to get out of the 6th.
I was doing yard work all day. I was outside. I was listening to Hammy.
Yeah.
And Hamilton was like, he literally said, I think we might get 2 more innings out of Bybee.
Yeah, well, I mean.
Because he's retired 13 in a row. And then he walked the guy, and Hamilton was like, wow. We've got a pitching change.
He was at 84 pitches, so he could have gone at least to the end of the inning.
You never want him to go a fresh inning with 90. No.
I just wonder if because of the food poisoning, but
might have factored in.
Again, Bybee.
What about Williams the day before?
Yeah, I hear you. I just think Bybee and Williams both had low strikeout numbers, which was interesting. I think their next evolution for the two of them is being more efficient.
Agree.
I did think Bybee was efficient yesterday, and I do think Vogt needs to let them go longer.
Okay.
I could live with it in the first start, but I think as we go on, I think the bullpen will be fine. It's been a little shaky so far. We knew it wasn't going to be as good as last year as you started. There's no way it could be that good.
Well, what I'm interested in, and I just think it's a misuse of analytics, and we've talked about analytics for so long. I just think your money is in your starting rotation. I mean, not to say that you're not paying your bullpen well, too.
Yeah.
But the bulk, you have more relievers than starters. But the starter payroll is way more than the reliever.
That's right.
So why then, in the most important games of the year, would you go more with your lesser paid and lesser talented arms in more innings than you do your starters? It doesn't make sense.
It's a trend that's probably gone too far. I think in the Guardians' case, they didn't have, they were starting Matthew Boyd and Alex Cobb in the playoffs who hadn't pitched all year. So
do you think it started? I think it started in 2016 with Tito.
Yeah, Tito and Joe Madden both were going.
Joe, I felt Joe was playing chess to Tito.
Yeah, I mean they both went crazy with the bullpen.
But you know what? I remember thinking vividly at the time.
Yeah.
I said this series is going to change baseball, and I don't think for the better.
Yeah,
we're turning into a.
It is. It's. I guess it depends on the team that makes it to the World. The Dodgers used their bullpen a lot because they didn't have a great starting rotation.
Well, it makes sense for them too.
Yeah. So we'll see how the season goes. I don't want to overreact to the bullpen based on one weekend.
Yeah, I don't either. But
I am a little concerned about Jose's wrist.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Because he says he's fine, and they didn't make any roster moves. Like I was thinking yesterday, maybe they'd call up an infielder and send Rodriguez down to have a little depth there. What worries me is Jose plays through everything.
Yeah, he does.
And we've seen him with
thumb surgery a couple years ago.
Yeah, right. And he played with it the whole.
He doesn't say a word about it, man.
No. He played with it the last 2 months of that season and was terrible. So I'm hoping this is not something he's like, well, I'm going to play through it. Remember that year he had no remember the second half of the year he was terrible.
I know.
Was that 22?
Well, that was the thumb.
I can't remember.
As soon as the season was over, it came out he needs thumb surgery.
Right. And then we were like, oh, that's why he stunk the second half of the year.
Right. And I would much rather, because it's April and it's cold. Now, they're going to San Diego and then Anaheim, so they're not really going to be dealing with cold games.
Right.
But they come back here April 8th. The forecast for opening day is 42 and cold and rainy.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really is nothing and it's not serious. But
I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to look at me like I've got 5 heads because there's no sample size. I don't love Jose in the 2-hole, and I want your thoughts on that. And I don't know what you think about it. It's too early in the lineup.
Let's see it for a little bit. The
problem with that bull is he's a notorious slow starter.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's 125 now. He's got 5 at bats. I don't even know, but
I like having my best hitter in the 2 spot because he gets up 30, 40 more times. And if Rocchio becomes the player we hope he can in the 9 spot, and Kwan, who gets on base a lot in the 1 spot, he should have some decent traffic on the bases.
Kwan's going to hit more home runs. Kwan could have hit 20 home runs last year.
Yeah,
he hit 14 and he missed 40 games.
I hear you. I still think he's a 15 home run guy.
Okay, even if he is.
Yeah.
The reason that I don't love that is when you're hitting directly behind a guy that might hit 15 or 20 homers, you're negating the 30 extra at-bats that you're going to give him by moving him up 1 spot in the lineup. You weren't here. I wish you were the day we talked about the initial decision. Yeah. You're making this decision. He's the tent pole of your lineup, agreed?
Right, yeah.
You're moving a guy who has said before he is not comfortable there, but he's Jose. He'll hit 9th if you tell him that's where he's going to help the team. But for me, to get him 30 extra at-bats, that's an extra at-bat every 5 games. It's just not worth it. And again, I think that's misuse of analytics.
I think we got to see how it plays out here a little bit. I do like him in the 2 spot, but if he's not comfortable there, eventually they'll move him back to 3. The home runs thing with Kwan doesn't matter because anybody you're going to put in the 2 spot, they're going to hit home runs too.
They will, but if it ends up being Rocchio, who I think it should be,
I
do. I think it should be Rocchio there. Rocchio's not going to hit a lot of home runs.
Well, I think he could hit 15 also.
I mean, there's always a threat that your 1 and 2 guys are going to homer, but I just think that, I want him in a position where he can do most damage, and that's later in the lineup.
Isn't the mindset, I'm curious, you guys, the mindset of like a leadoff guy like Kwan change based on the situation, like how aggressive he wants to be? Because he's a great hitter. What's the goal of a leadoff guy? To get on base, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So
patient,
I don't
see a lot of
need
pitches.
Kwan to be trying to hit the fences, man.
No, I know, but here's the problem with that. He's coming up. He's going to probably hit free agency, and he knows. You always say
you need home runs.
You want to get that big check. You better have 20 home runs a year.
Yeah. I'd offer him right now 5 for 75. I don't know if he'd take it, but
I bet he wouldn't.
I
bet he wouldn't.
But we'll see.
He's an elite defender. He's an elite base runner.
He's elite at everything except for power.
That's why I think personally he's made it a point of emphasis to hit more home runs, and he's going to do that again this year, even if it costs him 20 or 30 points on the batting average. But I think ultimately...
I don't think it will. I don't think it'll cost him. And I
don't know.
I think he's going to finish with around 15 home runs. I just don't think it's his game to hit for too much power. But he'll turn on it if he gets that inside fastball. He turns on it. That was the home run there.
We're hitting home runs as a team, which I love.
Yeah, so far 5 home runs, 11 extra base hits, 13 walks, only 16 strikeouts. Kwan didn't K the whole weekend.
Yeah, that's
the
his
one thing I'll
MO.
say about Kwan. I didn't like that sack bunt in the first game.
That was odd to me
And
too.
they got lucky.
And he did it on his own, right?
Yeah, if he wants to bunt for a hit, that's one thing. But Kwan, you don't need to sack bunt. You have at the very good least, you're probably going to ground out and move the runners anyway.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
I don't know why they didn't walk Jose Ramirez after that. I didn't understand that. I thought that was really stupid by them.
Yeah,
But-
that first game there were some interesting moves. I know in our text chain you
Yeah.
said that you wanted the guards to walk Salvi, I think it was, to
Yes.
after the leadoff
Even
double.
though he's the go-ahead run, just because that guy's
Yeah.
so clutch, I don't want to mess with him.
I agree
Yeah.
on that part of it. He's
Yeah.
clutch, and you don't want to. But I also don't want to put the winning run.
I know
on first
nobody
base
ever wants the winning run on first, but
because it's the bottom of the ninth. If it's the sixth and you got more chances, yes. But it's the ninth, and,
Yeah.
and if he scores, the game's over. And I don't. That's why I wouldn't put him on. It worked out.
Yeah.
It worked
Well, they
out.
tied the game, but
They did, but
yeah.
but they
they
didn't-
ended up winning.
They ended up winning.
Go ahead, Mike.
At the end of the day, the Guards take 2 of 3 from the Royals to open up the season. They are in San Diego for a 3-game set. First pitch tonight. West Coast time, I think it's 9:40 is the first
Luis
pitch.
Ortiz makes his first
Stay up
Guardian
late.
start.
Yeah, that's
Kyle
why I'm going
Hart.
to watch. I want to
And
watch
he's
Austin
like
Hedges,
Hedges.
I bet, makes his debut tonight because
We're
lefty
gonna